local football leagues. Willie Munford, Stroud's youth football coach, claimed that CJ was throwing 50-yard passes at the age of just 9 years old, and opposing coaches even complained to the league that Munford was cheating because they didn't believe Stroud was the same age as the other kids. He was CJ's coach for about 5 years. During this time, Coleridge would attend every single game. He cared so much about his son's development as a player that he would even argue with the coach during games. Munford grew accustomed to butting heads with Mr. Stroud, but he respected the fact that he wanted the best for his son, until one day he disappeared. This caught CJ's coach by surprise since Coleridge never missed a game, so he asked the 13-year-old CJ why his father wasn't there. In an interview, Munford said, quote, "CJ told me he didn't want to talk about it. I was going to leave that one alone. He played well that year, but he was different. You could tell. He was quiet. He wasn't playing as well as he was supposed to. He still had the arm, but he went quiet." The reason why CJ's father wasn't there that day was because of an incident that took place on April 12, 2015. An incident that changed the Stroud family's lives forever, because on this night, Coleridge forced his way into a woman's vehicle when she was at a stoplight. He instructed her to drive to a house so he could buy drugs, he assaulted her, and then used the vehicle to evade the San Diego Harbor police. The car chase ended with Coleridge crashing into a pole. He got out of the vehicle and started running on foot, where he jumped into the San Diego Bay. Needless to say, he was arrested and was later sentenced to 38 years in prison for charges that included carjacking and kidnapping. Coleridge claimed in the years leading up to this, he once again secretly began using illegal drugs after 20 years of sobriety to cope with the divorce he was going through with Kimberly. His incarceration not only meant that CJ would have to get used to life without a father, but it also sent the family into financial hell. Understandably, CJ held tons of resentment towards his dad and didn't speak to him for over 5 years following his arrest. He said, quote, "My pops, he was my best friend. To have your best friend snatched like that, it was tough. I just look at the things my dad did that were positive, but for a while, it wasn't like that. I hated my pops, for real. Like, man, how could you just leave me like that?" Given the hardships his family was facing, football became so much more important, because now he's not just playing for fun, he's playing for survival. If he does have the potential to play football at a good college, get drafted, and make life-changing money in the NFL, he needs to prove it in high school first. Lots of pressure for a teenager. His first 2 seasons at Rancho Cucamonga High School were nothing too notable. He only appeared in 4 games as a freshman and just 7 in his sophomore year. During this time period, the Stroud family's lack of money was really starting to become a massive issue. His mother Kimberly had to downsize their home 4 different times until they eventually had nowhere else to turn and were facing homelessness. But for Kimberly, this wasn't an option. She accepted a job managing this storage facility in Upland, California, and as a perk for taking the job, her and her 4 children were allowed to live in the small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom space above the facility's office. The lack of income had a direct impact on CJ's football career as well. His family couldn't afford new cleats for him, so he got blisters on his feet after every single game from having to wear his worn-down ones. They couldn't hire a quarterback coach for him to improve his game, so instead he relied on YouTube videos of Drew Brees to learn and grow as a quarterback. Since food was scarce, his high school would send his family packaged meals that were left over, and during one high school game, his mother noticed him playing with one eye closed. When she asked him why he was doing this, he said he only had one contact lens left, and he felt bad asking his mom to buy him new ones. The Strouds weren't just some family that happened to be running low on money, they were dirt broke. As you can imagine, this had an extremely negative impact on CJ's mental health. In an interview, he said he found himself in several life-or-death situations off the field that he preferred to keep private, but he knew just how much a career in football would mean to his family, so he decided to snap out of it and focus on that. The decision to focus on football was the correct one, because in his junior year, there appeared to be a small light at the end of the tunnel. In 11 games as the team's starting quarterback, he threw for over 2,300 yards with 19 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. He carried this momentum into his senior year, where his family's life changed again, but this time, it was for the better. In 13 games, he threw for almost 4,000 yards, including 47 touchdown passes to just 9 interceptions, making him the 4th best high school recruit coming out of the state of California in 2020. And as a result, several D1 colleges wanted Stroud on their team, including Colorado, Michigan, Georgia, and Ohio State. His mother recalled during the recruiting process coaches from different schools visiting the storage facility he was living in so they could meet him in person. Eventually, Stroud committed to Ohio Ohio State. And this is where the highlight reel of his life officially began. He redshirted his freshman season since Justin Fields was the team's starting quarterback, but in his first year as a starter, he was a star right away. In 12 games, he passed for over 4,400 yards with 44 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. This made him the 2021 Big Ten Player of the Year, where he finished 4th overall in the voting for the Heisman Trophy. In his junior season, he was great once again, tallying just under 3,700 passing yards